Well, only on two. Take a look at this video. Do you know what's being said? Around 4,000 Idahoans depend on American Sign Language interpreters in order to communicate. CBS 2's Lauren Clark shows us why a lack of qualified interpreters can be a big problem for those who need them.
Communication is unfolding in front of your eyes. Vivid facial expressions, dazzling hand signs, and grand body gestures. The language and art of American Sign Language.
American Sign Language is amazing. You use your entire body. So whether you're flaring your nostrils, your eyebrows, the way you move your mouth or hold your throat, all of those have different meaning.
Stephen Stubbs is a professor of sign language here at Idaho State University's Meridian campus. The goal is to have these students become interpreters for the deaf community, a profession that comes in high demand.
We've seen the volume for our deaf patients continue to grow.
Hospitals like St. Luke's says it can be difficult finding qualified ASL interpreters for their patients. Joshua Riska is the manager of cultural language services. He says after Spanish, ASL is where they most need interpreters. And he tells me they typically see 4 to 5 deaf patients a week, and have turned to technology like video services.
See at the bottom, her name is always going to appear. This is her agent ID number.
In addition to their full-time interpreter to support this need. According to the Idaho Council for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, 200,000 deaf and hard of hearing people live in the state of Idaho. Of that population, around 30,000 of them are completely deaf and depend on visual communication, whether that's ASL or pen and paper. Around 4,000 rely on interpreters. Idaho only has 175 licensed interpreters to fill this role. But Stephen Snow, the director of the CDHH, says the quality of interpreters is more important than the quantity.
There's a number of legal situations where deaf people have been in prison because of a misunderstanding based on the interpretation. And the judge doesn't understand that the interpreter is the one making that mistake. And in the medical field, there has been a number of stories where a deaf person has had the wrong limb amputated, or they're taking their medication wrong, and it's because of a misinterpretation based on the interpreter's qualifications.
These problems led to the state passing a law in 2017 requiring Idaho Sign Language interpreters to be licensed. This means the interpreters must pass an exam that's approved by the board and follow a code of ethics.
Actually, before licensure, we had a number of interpreters within the community, but many of them were not qualified. They should not have been working in that field in the first place. Once, when I approached the legislature about this issue, I told the legislature that we would notice a drop in the number of interpreters, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It means we're filtering out those interpreters who are not qualified to be there in the beginning. That number, while it might be depleted in the beginning, will eventually start to grow again.
And the numbers reflect just that. Snow says when the law went into place of July 2018, there were 120 licensed interpreters in the state. There's now 175, with 145 of them considered fully licensed. He says the law also encouraged some interpreters who weren't licensed to hone their skills and apply. But problems still remain. Snow says it's a challenge to get qualified interpreters to rural communities. As the population continues to grow in Idaho, more interpreters will be needed. And there's always a demand for interpreters who can handle the high-stake environments of court and medicine, which can take years of skill. Faculty here at ISU hope students will embrace these challenges in their future careers. And because ASL is a language, they will constantly need to learn more to improve.
Honestly, some sign language students think, oh, I'll learn a couple years of sign language and I'll go through the interpreting program and I'll get out and I will be amazing. And I would say, it's going to take you a little bit longer than that. And that's okay. That's okay if you really want it. It's like any other profession, any other job, you have to work for it.
For the deaf community, the importance of qualified interpreters all boils down to this.
Providing access to deaf people lets them be part of the human family instead of looking at them as somebody who is disabled or a second-class citizen.